Hello children, today we start with the next topic, the nervous system. Here you can see in the diagram, the nervous system consists mainly of the brain and the spinal cord with the associated nerves. Now you may wonder, how is unification or integration achieved in our body? That is, communication makes it possible for control and control makes integration possible. Only when there is communication throughout the body and there are ways to control the activities, then it's possible to have integration in all our activities. So, for this, in our body as well as in some of the higher animals, we have two such systems which control and coordinate the diverse activities of the millions of cells and the body organs. One such system is the nervous system and the other is the chemical messengers, that is the endocrine system, which controls with the help of the hormones. So now let us see, why do we need a nervous system? The nervous system helps us to keep us informed about our surroundings. That is, through the various stimuli, we are able to understand the changes taking place in the surroundings and able to react to it and live accordingly. So this is done by the various sense organs which we have, as you can see in the picture. The eyes do the work of seeing the things and giving the information to the brain or the spinal cord. From there, whatever reaction has to be taken place, that message is sent to the muscles, and those are called the effectors. And hence, we react to the changes in the environment. Then, whatever we study, whatever we read, whatever we listen to, or the movies you watch, you remember it for quite a long time. So this is also done by the nervous system. The nervous system helps you to remember things. As well as whenever you read some puzzle, you read a math sum, your brain starts thinking and it reasons out for the answer for it. So thinking, reasoning and remembering, we require this brain. Then whatever activities we do in our daily life, we see a glass of water. Then you can see the eyes look at the glass of water. In the picture it's seen there. Then that message is taken to the brain. The brain then sends the message to the muscles of the arms to stretch out the arm, lift the glass of water and bring it to the mouth and you sip the water. So this reaction also is because of the nervous system. Then the nervous system also controls all the voluntary muscular activities like running, then holding a book, walking. All this is controlled by the nervous system. Not only that, but it also regulates all the involuntary activities like breathing. The lungs, which are seen in the diagram, they are responsible for breathing. So those are involuntary. They are not obeying our will. The lungs work at their own speed. Then the heart, which pumps the blood, the kidneys, which filter the blood, and the stomach, which helps in digestion. These are all involuntary actions. So they are also controlled by the brain, or not controlled but regulated by the brain. So for all these activities, our body has a system called the nervous system. And this nervous system consists of brain, spinal cord, sense receptors and a whole lot of nerves. That is, numerous nerves which are there in the body. Now let us see the nerve cell first. That is the neuron, the basic structural and functional unit of a nervous system. As you can see in the diagram, this is the structure of a neuron. The neuron is also called as a nerve cell. The structure of a neuron now. This neuron, it works because it is able to perform two special functions, that is irritability and conductibility. Now let us see the parts of the neuron. The three main basic parts of the neuron are cyton, dendrites and axon. Look at the diagram. In the diagram also you can see the three parts labeled very clearly. The large part, which is the cell body, that is the cyton. So the cell body is also called as a cyton, or it is also called as perikaryon. So these are the alternative names for the cell body. The cell body, you can see there are small branches coming out from various corners of the cell body. Those are called the dendrites. And one of the dendrite which goes into a long tube-like structure, long extension, that is called as the axon. Now let us see one by one each part. The first part is the cell body, or it is the perikaryon or cyton. It is bounded from all the outsides by a simple cell membrane. Its cytoplasm is made up of neuroplasm. That is, the cytoplasm inside it is called as neuroplasm. In addition to all the usual cell organelles present in the animal cell, the neuroplasm also contains neurofibrils. These neurofibrils are structures which help in transmission of impulses. And they also have Nissel's granules. You can see what is labeled there. Those small blue dots. Those are called the Nissel's granules. These synthesize proteins for the cell. These are small fragments of endoplasmic reticulum with ribosomes. So not the whole endoplasmic reticulum, but a small portion of it, and along with ribosomes. What are they called? Rough endoplasmic reticulum. Then the only organelle which is missing here is the centrosome. And because the centrosome is missing, the cell is unable to divide. That is, it has lost the ability for cell division. That is about the cell body. Then coming to the dendrites. As you can see in the diagram, this is a branching tree-like structure. These are one to many highly branched but small projections, and they arise from the cyton. They conduct the nerve impulses from the synapse towards the cell body, either from one cell to the other. That is, they do the work of collecting the information from the surroundings. Then here in this diagram you can see the axon. The axon, which is the yellow color nerve cell, has a small axon, a short length, whereas the one shown in the hind limb of a horse, it has a long axon. So the length of the axon can vary from 1 millimeter or a few millimeters to more than 1 meter in length, depending upon the position where the axon is located. And this axon arises from the cyton as a very long process. Now this cyton, here you can see in this diagram, the yellow color rod, it is the axon, and it is covered by a white insulating sheath which is made up of a fatty material, and that is called as the myelin sheath or medullary sheath. And above this medullary sheath, it has a thin outermost layer called as the neural lemma or neural lemma. And in between this neural lemma has some small gaps. So here you can see the small gaps which are present in between the myelin sheath. And those are present throughout the length of the axon. These gaps are called as nodes of Ranvier. Then all the axons are not the same. That is, they don't end up in one single terminal end. Majority of them have some branches in them. And those branches are termed as collaterals. As you can see in the diagram, it has 3 branches. So those are the collateral branches. The end portion of the axon, it has swollen bud-like structures or swollen ends. Those are called as the synaptic knobs. That is, each axon terminates into a bulb-like structure. And this synaptic knob, the bulb-like structure, has certain chemicals called neurotransmitters. As the impulse reaches the terminal end of the axon, the neurotransmitter, which is named as acetylcholine, it is released, which sets a few impulses in the dendrites of next neuron. That is, as you can see, this is one dendrite of a nerve cell. This is another nerve cell. So as the nerve cell brings all the messages, there is a small gap between the ending bulb and the next dendrite of the next nerve cell, adjacent nerve cell. So that is shown in an enlarged section here. As you can see, there is a small gap, and that gap is called as the synaptic cleft. Now what happens in the synaptic cleft, you can see very clearly in this diagram. The upper diagram shows you the marking, that is the synaptic cleft, how small the gap is. Then the lower diagrams. The first one is a synaptic cleft where it has a small gap. Then as the message comes to the knobs, that is the synaptic knob, then there is a chemical which is produced. As you can see the circles there, those are called as the presynaptic vesicles. They are present before the synapse. Those come closer to the synaptic knob and then they burst out and they release the neurotransmitters. They are filled with neurotransmitters. One of the neurotransmitters is the acetylcholine, which is present in the body. Then here you can see how the neurotransmitters are released. Once the neurotransmitters are released, then the message jumps from one axon end to the next dendrite. You can see presynaptic neuron and postsynaptic neuron. Presynaptic neuron is a neuron through which the message is passing. It is going from the presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic neuron. Now this diagram explains to you the parts of the neuron in detail. You can see this is the cell body. This is the nucleus present inside and various other cell organelles as we discussed priorly. Then you have these dendrites, these branches. These branches are like tree branches which are spread out all over on either side of the nerve cell body. It does the work of receiving the signals and then it passes on the signals through this long extension called as the axon. This axon has the fatty layer on top of it and that is present, which is called as the myelin sheath, which increases the speed of the passage. That is because it has small gaps in between. There is the nodes of Ranvier. These nodes of Ranvier help to jump the message across. So for easy impulses to be passed out and faster, this plays a major role. Then you have the axon endings and these axon endings have these knobs. These knobs transfer messages from one cell to the other. Then you have the various types of neurons. The first one, what you can see, is the bipolar neuron, which is having two extensions from the cell body. Then the second one is a unipolar neuron, also called as pseudo-unipolar neuron. Unipolar because it has only one extension. As you can see from the cell body, only one extension comes and then you have the two branches, the collaterals. The axons are in two branches. The third is a multipolar neuron. And normally we study this multipolar neuron as a nerve cell even for drawing of a diagram. It has a cell body with numerous dendrites, one long axon and the nerve endings. Now coming to some of the terms which we come across when these nerve cells work. That is, the first one is a stimulus. What is a stimulus? Stimulus is an agent or a change in the external or internal environment that induces reaction in the body. Now as you can see in the diagram, the first diagram, the person is holding, unaware he is holding a hot vessel. So the heat what touches the hand of a person, that is the stimulus. Then the second diagram, you can see a girl comes across a dustbin. Now the smell coming out, the foul smell coming out from the dustbin, that is the stimulus. What would be the response of that person, that girl? She covers the nose. So stimulus is this sudden change what is found in the external environment or at times in the internal environment. And this brings about a result or a change in the body. Now here you can see some more examples of stimulus. Stimulus is a singular term and stimuli is a plural form. So when you smell the food or smell any type of substance, the chemicals present in the air works as stimulus. Accidentally when you cut your finger, the pain sensation is a stimulus. Hearing of sound also is a stimulus. The cold weather, change of temperature, that is the temperature when it falls down, that is also stimulus. Or having strong, heaty or summer day. So that excessive heat also becomes a stimulus. Then what is a response? The change in an organism. Okay, that is in any activity in the body of an organism, whatever change comes out in the activity that is due to the stimulus is called as response. As you can see in the first diagram, the flower, when it is kept in a dark room, the plant, it starts and only one corner there is light available for it. Its stem starts bending towards the light. So that is response to sunlight. The stimulus is sunlight. And as you saw in the stimulus, the diagram, the person holding a hot object, he immediately, when he senses the pain, he leaves that object. So that is a response. Then the most funniest or the most interesting response is this, what you can see down diagram. When you see some food, okay, the look of the food as well as the smell coming from that food, that works as a stimulus. That is taken by the receptors, that is your eyes as well as your nose, and that sensation is sent to the brain. The brain gives the message to the tongue and the tongue starts salivating. That is, you start salivating to eat that food. Your mouth starts watering. So this is also a response given by your brain. Then what is impulse? Impulse is a wave of irritability like the conduction of an electrical current through a copper wire. A wave of physiological changes what takes place in the nerve cell. So this irritability, it passes through the axon of the nerve cell. As you can see in the diagram, in the axon, how the message is being passed on. That is the impulse. Then what are receptors? The receptors are specialized epithelial cells which on receiving the stimulus set up a wave of impulse towards the central nervous system. That is, when they get the information, as you can see in this diagram, the tongue, when food passes over the tongue, the sense of the taste, it goes through the nerve going from the tongue, that is a facial nerve, and that is reaching to the medulla. From the medulla, it goes to the region in the brain where it is going to sense the taste. So there your taste will be identified. So these parts on the surface of the skin or in the various parts of the body, those have small regions for sensation and those are called as the receptors.